Okay, now we're going to go ahead and make our bow, and you need a nice fluffy bow for your lantern swag, and there's a variety of ways to make a bow. My preference has become to use the Pro Bow. Regina Sellers has designed this, and it has been a lifesaver for me. But I will put a link in this tutorial where you can go and purchase one if you don't have one and are interested. But it's called Pro Bow the Hand, and you do not need the bigger or the ultimate size unless you're going to be making bows for cars. Otherwise, this large size is plenty for most people. If you don't have a Pro Bow the Hand and you don't want to purchase one, there are just gobs of tutorials on the internet where you could hand make a bow. I used to make my own bows by hand, but if you're making a lot of them, I've just found this has been easier and saves me a lot of time. I know Julie Samako of Southern Charm Wreaths has a great tutorial giving you 9 options to make a bow, and you can find that tutorial on her blog. But like I said, I use the Pro Bow, and that's what we're going to show you today. But there again, we always use wired ribbon for your bows. Otherwise, your bow is not going to hold a good shape. And I use 26 gauge floral wire. You can get that at about any craft store, and it comes in all kinds of different colors, and for this one I went ahead and chose a green. And you can use other gauge wires. It's just going to be a little bit more difficult to get a nice looking bow. I think with the 26 gauge I can really grab it and pull that knot in tight. The only thing you do want to be careful as you're twisting it at the end, don't overdo it because it will break. Okay, but we'll go ahead and get started now. We're going to need 26 inches, make that 2 pieces of 26 inches of this gauge. We're going to need 2 pieces, 26 inches each to make our bow. And I have already marked my Pro Bow with some measurements that I use, and I already know that this is 20 inches long, and I've got it marked for 6 inches from the center, so we'll go ahead and measure out 20 inches, and then 6 more, and we'll go ahead and bend that, and then just make the other one to same length as the first. Okay, we'll take our wire cutters, and it doesn't have to be perfect. If you miss it by just a few inches, that's not going to be a big deal. Okay, all right, we'll set that to the side, and I usually at this point go ahead and fold them in half, and we'll get the first piece out, and we're going to be working backwards from the top of the bow to the bottom. So keep that in mind whenever you're choosing which ribbon you're going to use first. I know that I want this beautiful red plaid ribbon on top, and so I'm going to start with this. Okay, and I go ahead and I measure out my tail. Get this out of the way just a little bit. I'm going to measure out my tail, and I'm usually pretty generous with that because I would rather have it just a little bit too long and go ahead and trim it to size than to cut it too short and wish I had a little bit more length. There are workarounds for that, but it's just easier to go ahead and get plenty of ribbon. Now for this top part though, I am going to make a Teri bow, so I don't need it quite as long as say I might need some on the bottom. So what we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and pinch that together, and then we're going to go ahead and wrap a piece of our floral wire around it. And I usually go ahead and wrap it around twice. Just like that. And then we're going to take our ribbon and we're going to loop it just like this. Loop it around that center peg. We're going to bring it back to the center. We're going to pinch it together. And then I'm going to wrap my wires around it. Okay, and we're going to pull that tight. And this pro bow, it can be kind of tricky to get the hang of it. But Regina has an excellent video on how to use her pro bow on her website. If this isn't adequate instruction on how to use the pro bow, then I'll defer you to her website. But we're going to take one piece of wire, we're going to wrap around the top of the peg, and then we're going to go below. There's a little nail that sticks out down here on the bottom, and we're going to wrap the second wire around here, and then we're going to tuck it underneath of the board, just like that. Okay, so now I've got my ribbon is secured to the board, so I can let go of it. If I get any interruptions or whatever, I can go ahead and take care of those. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and tuck this spare end up here out of the way, and I'm going to go ahead and wrap the first ribbon loop around the first peg. I'm going to bring it to the center here, pinch it together just like that, and then I'm going to twist it. Now this ribbon is two-sided, so it's not that big of a deal, but this little twist here, that's what is going to give you two things. Number one, is going to give you some body to your bow loop, but then two, if this was patterned on one side and not on the other, this is how you're going to have that pattern show up nice and pretty, so you have the pretty side that is visible once your bow is complete. Okay, so we've done our twist. We're going to bring that around the next peg. We've got one on either side here. Okay, we're going to bring it to the center. We're going to pinch it, and we're going to put it right on top of that previous twist, and we're going to twist it again. Okay, just like that. Now's when we're going to need that second piece of wire. And we're going to slide that second piece of wire right down that center loop. See, right through here. We're going to get it all the way down to the bottom and bring it out of the right side of the peg. Okay. And then we're going to tighten it and just do one twist. If you do too many twists, it's going to make your bow center too bulky, and it's not going to make a nice clean bow. So like I said, I put that right down through the center loop and then brought it around to the right side of this peg. It's my right side of the peg, okay? All right, and then we'll go ahead and cut this ribbon. And for right now, I know I'm making this a little bit long, so I'm just going to cut it just straight right across. Okay. Now we're going to get our second ribbon, or our window pane ribbon. Now this window pane ribbon sometimes can be kind of tricky to work with when you're talking about bows, but I tell you, it really does hold its shape nicely. And if you have Like this ribbon here is not, doesn't have a lot of body, and by that I mean it's not real stiff. Sometimes adding this window pane ribbon or something like that underneath will then kind of stiffen up your bow. Okay, same thing, we're going to pinch this just like that. Okay, and then we're going to put it right on top of that other twist, and we're going to secure it with our wire just like that. Okay, and do one twist. Okay, and we're going to get this up out of the way, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to bring this up around the second peg. We're going to bring it to the center and pinch it. Here's where it gets kind of tricky with this window pane ribbon. It wants to kind of collapse on itself, but we could straighten it out later. We've gone ahead and twisted it. There again, we're right on top of that previous twist. We're going to bring it around the next loop, bring it back to the center, twist it, and that's going to be our next loop. I'm only going to do 2 loops with this ribbon at this time, okay? All right, now we'll go ahead and cut that off. Get that out of the way. Okay, now I know that I'm wanting to make a smaller bow, so I don't want to have a humongous bow sticking out here. I know that this is 3 inches, 3.5 inches, 4 inches, 4.5 inches. I'm going to make my final loop here. However, I want to use this window pane ribbon again, and I want to make a few loops with this red plaid ribbon. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to put these 2 together just like this, one right on top of each other, and that way I'm going to finish up with this 3rd peg. If I go out to this next peg, the bow's going to be too big for my project I'm doing right now. Okay, that's just a little trick that you can use for the future. And so we'll go ahead and the same process. We're going to pinch right together. We're going to put that right on top of the previous twist. And we're going to twist our wire. Tuck it underneath out of the way. Okay? Now get you plenty of ribbon out because it's going to be a little bit more difficult to hold on to 2, but we're going to wrap that around that next peg, just like that. Bring it to the center, just like that. Twist. Bring it around the next peg. Pinch it in the middle. Twist. I'm holding that there with my index finger. And we're just going to twist it just like that. Okay? See how easy that is? And like I said, if you need further instruction, Regina has a great video on her website, Pro Bow the Hand. But I tell you, to be honest, the main thing is just practice. I was just about ready to throw this in the trash when I first got it, but I just persevered, and now, like I said, it's my lifesaver. So, all right, now to get the bow off of the board, we're going to take this top wire and just undo it. Tip, don't just pull it straight up or you're going to end up with a knot. Okay, and one thing too, when you look here at your the center of the bow, it should be lined right up, one on top of each other. Okay. All right, we'll undo the bottom. And then we're just going to tighten it down. And this is the part you want to make sure that you twist it enough, but not too much, because otherwise your wire is going to break. Okay? And we just lift it off of there, just like that. Get this board out of the way. And usually what I'll do, I'll put my thumb in between the center bow loop, and I'll kind of pinch it down a little bit. This one's already pretty snug, but I'll pinch it down while I'm twisting it. You don't want too many twists though, okay? But this is what you should have. See how it's straight, right up and down, right, straight up and down, okay? Now, now we're going to need to fluff our bow, and for that, I've got a fluff box I'm going to bring up here. And I held off buying this for a long time. I thought it looked kind of like an extra I could do without. But I finally made the plunge and went ahead and bought one. And it really does change the way that you're able to make your bows, the way you're able to fluff them. But you can also make your own. I know Regina has said that herself. The Pro Bow is patented, but this is not. Real simple to do. You just need a square box, and you're going to have an eye hook here in the center, and you've got a little nail, and I'll show you how to use those in a minute. And then the key, I think, too, is there's a lot of weight. This thing's really heavy, okay? It keeps it from shifting it around on your table, okay? But we'll do, I've got this backwards for me, but we'll go ahead and turn this way I usually use it. But what we're going to do, we're going to place our bow right in there. See how I've got that wire right in here, and then we'll take the tail end of it and we'll wrap it around, okay? And then you've got both hands that you can work with your bow, okay? And I'm going to go ahead and stand up here so I can see over it. And I usually will go ahead and start on the bottom, and we're just going to pull these bow pieces apart, trying to get them into alternating sections. What I mean by that is I don't want this, you know, two pieces of the red right next to each other. I'm going to kind of stagger the individual ribbons. And notice when I'm fluffing my bow, I've got my fingers on the inside like this, okay? I'm not just pulling straight. That's going to give you a flat ribbon. Get it in here and kind of open it up, make it nice and rounded, okay? We'll go do the same thing on the other side. And you can kind of manhandle this if you need to. Just kind of tug on it, and I'm kind of pulling them apart and twisting as I'm going. Okay. Pulling each one of these layers apart. See how easy that is using this fluff box? I'm just pulling these apart in opposite directions. There again, putting my fingers on the inside and fluffing this bow. Okay, just like that. Now you've got a beautiful bow. Okay, kind of looks like a spider right now, but we'll fix that once we get it on the lantern swag. Or we'll fix that once we get it on the lantern. Okay, we'll take it off. Now you got a beautiful bow. Okay, now we're ready to make the bow. And since I've already had a up close and personal shot of the pro bow making the bow, I'm not going to go through all the mechanics of that again. But if you need any refresher, go back to the previous module, or as I said before, Regina Sellers, the maker of the pro bow, has an excellent tutorial on making the bow with a pro bow. Or Julie Smacco, Southern Charms Wreaths, has a great tutorial, 9 different ways to make a bow. It doesn't matter what kind of bow you put on here. A funky bow is another good alternative if you're lacking in the bow making department. Probably a funky bow would be the way I would go. It's probably the simplest bow to make, but nevertheless, let's go ahead and make our patriotic bow for our swag. I've gone ahead, I've already cut off 2 26-inch pieces of the 26 gauge floral wire. Will you be using that? And then I've got a variety of patriotic ribbons. I've got, actually, since I recorded the supply list, I decided to make the bow just a little bit bigger. When I saw it in real life, I started out with 4 ribbons. I decided to add another one. Anyway, let's get started. And I always use wired ribbon, as I said, over and over. Otherwise, you're just asking for your bow to fail. And I always keep my ribbon tails kind of long, and then I'll trim them off once I get the swag on the lantern, and I'll trim it to the proper length. But I want the silver to be on top, and so these tails are going to be a little bit shorter. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pinch my ribbon, grab a piece of wire, just going to wrap that around there a couple of times. And wrap it around that peg. And I usually use row C, unless I'm just making a really small or a really large bow. I use row C on the large pro bow. We'll wrap that around that top peg. Then I'm going to put it down here on the bottom and tuck it underneath. Okay. And wrap around the peg. Bring it to the middle. Get this out of the way. Back to the top. And twist it. Then I'm going to bring that second piece of wire. We're going to run that down through that center loop over to the right side of the bow. My right, that is. And we're just going to secure it now. Twist the wire. Okay. Like I said, I made these a little bit long, so I don't know how long I'm going to want them yet. And I'm going to dovetail these ends as well. And I'm going to get them out of the way. Okay. And I'll go with another 1.5 inch ribbon at this time. I usually put 2 1.5 inch ribbons. If I'm using 5 ribbons, that is. I'll put 2 1.5 inch ribbons And then I will put one of the larger, the 2.5 inch ribbons, and then I'll put the next 1.5 inch ribbon. That's just my technique. You know, everybody always gets all worried and uptight about doing things wrong. Anything you do, you can undo. So I couldn't tell you how many times I've undone a bow after I've gotten it completely done because I didn't like the way it looked. Okay. Whoops. Got a little carried away twisting that. Remember, when we're making the bow with the Pro Bow, we want this back side to be right on top of each other. I know you can't see it in this demonstration, but you should have a good view in the other one. We're going to twist so the pretty side's up. I like this ribbon. I love glitter and a lot of bling. I was just thinking the other day, it's been a while since Christmas and Mardi Gras was over, and I was just about to get all the glitter out of my pores. So, okay. I tell you what, I was going to go with this one next, but I think I'm going to put the red star next instead of putting those two flag type ribbons together. I'm going to do the red one next. Kind of space out that flag look a little bit more. And those are the kind of things you think about, or I do. It's just part of my thinking as I'm making the bow. Pinch that up. Okay. I like this ribbon. It's really good, stiff canvas. Really holds its shape well. And that's one thing to consider when you're buying ribbon. Unfortunately, I have to buy a lot of mine online, so I don't have the opportunity to feel it. You know, if you are going someplace where you're actually able to visualize the ribbon, you want to feel of it and feel how much body it has. If it doesn't have a lot of body, it's not going to hold a good shape. And that's why I like canvas ribbon or a really thick satin ribbon. Although this one is a pretty sheer ribbon, and I think with the glitter and the wiring, it has a lot of body. Holds its shape real well. So you just got a feel of it. All right. It's going to be beautiful. I love this royal blue color. Okay, we'll trim this off. Just have one more left. There again, I'm trimming these really long. Pinch that in the middle. Put it right straight. And like I said, right at this point, this bit should look at it straight on and it be exactly in a straight row. gonna be a good size bow, but we've got a good size lantern. All right. Trim this off. Okay. And remember, you want to unwrap that. Don't just pull it up because it will end up in a knot. Sounds like I've done that before, huh? All right. And we'll tighten this down. Be careful when you're turning this 26 gauge wire that you don't do it too much because it will break, okay? All right, we'll just lift this right off of there. Okay, and that's what we have so far. See, it's straight up and down. Okay, you see that? Straight up and down. Doesn't look like much of a bow right now, but it will. It'll be beautiful. Okay, let's get the fluff box out. Oh, this thing's heavy. Okay. All right, and we'll put this on the fluff box. Twist it up. Now's the part where I got to stand up. I'll put this where you guys can see real well. And we're just pulling this apart. I love that flag ribbon. It's really a good thick canvas ribbon. I've used this flag ribbon for memorial wreaths also, meaning at the cemetery memorial. Look beautiful on the armed forces wreaths, patriotic type wreaths, policeman wreaths, all that. Sometimes it's kind of hard to get too. It comes out of stock, especially this time of year. Okay. I'm just pulling these apart, trying to stagger the colors. I'm kind of twisting as I'm pulling them apart. And remember, we're fluffing, we're from the inside. We're not just pulling, we're fluffing from the inside and make a nice full bow. Okay. Trying to kind of mix up the colors, like I said. Isn't that beautiful? Love it. While it's on this fluff box, you can pretty much bend it and twist it however you want. That's the advantage of having that box. It kind of frees up your other hand. I did it for a long time just trying to do it on my lap, and it definitely was a good investment getting the fluff box. But that's what we have so far, okay? All right, now we're going to go ahead and put it all together.